this. There's a busy time of year, Christmas time coming up. Schedule's going to be altered a little bit, but in some form, we're going to do our best to provide you this show still every Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday moving forward. Looking forward to a big Saturday card. I mean, as always, lots of games to break down. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to start with an early start. Let's make note of the start time here. 2:05 Eastern with this hockey game. Edmonton Oilers taking on the Minnesota Wild, rotation 1 and 2. We've got Minnesota minus 115. Home favorite, total 5.5 across the board. Big news for Edmonton is they get Cam Talbot back, and he will be starting in net for the Oilers. Talk about needing him back in the worst way. Will it help? Who knows at this point? Like, really? I mean, Edmonton continues to be a big-time source of frustration. They get a nice 3 wins in a row, and then they end up getting blanked by a backup goalie the other night, playing the second night of back-to-back games, too, against Nashville. UC Saros comes in there and just absolutely stonewalls the Edmonton Oilers. 46 saves, incredible performance by him, putting the Nashville Predators in the winner's circle against this Edmonton team, snapping their mini little 3-game win streak. And it's about time for the Oilers. They get Talbot back. Laurent Brossoit, we've bragged about this guy on multiple shows, just not up to the task of being a regular starting goaltender. I think that's become pretty clear. His numbers were underwhelming, to say the least. So the fact the Edmonton Oilers get Cam Talbot back in between the pipes certainly going to help this team defensively, going to help them in terms of goal prevention. We'll see if it does here against Minnesota. And there's also some goaltending news on the Minnesota side. We know Devin Dubnyk got injured a few games ago, week to week now, with a lower body injury. So that means it's Alex Stalock in net for the foreseeable future, and responded to it quite well in his last start against Toronto, shutting out the Leafs in a nice win for the Minnesota Wild. They've won 4 in a row. They're looking for 5 in a row. 5 in a row has not happened for the Minnesota Wild yet this season. They're looking to get that today. Now, Alex Stalock had a little extra chip on his shoulder last game against Toronto. Toronto sort of didn't give him the greatest opportunity. That's putting it mildly. They had traded for him with San Jose. And really didn't even get a sniff with the Leafs, and was down with the Marlies in the AHL his whole time when he was with the Leaf organization. So I think he had a little burr under his saddle to, hey, stick it to the Leafs and play well against them, and he sure did. Good performance. Can he do it again now? He's going to be the starter for the next little bit, at least, for this Minnesota Wild team. Can Alex Stalock keep it rolling here in net for the Wild against this Oilers team today? It's an interesting game. I kind of lean Edmonton a little bit, but I don't love it. I mean, this Edmonton team, I've sort of sworn off getting involved in their games. You just don't know what you're going to get from them game to game. They had a nice little 3-game swatch, and we'll see if they can bounce back from getting shut out by the Nashville Predators the other night. We've got both of my colleagues here involved in this hockey game, Edmonton and Minnesota, and want to talk about it, Alex and Andrew. Let's go to Alex, the Minnesota man, Wild and the Oilers in this early start on Saturday. Alex, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, I was pretty bummed at myself for not being on the Wild in that game against Toronto, knowing that Stalock was going. Like I said, that was a great situation. A lot of goalies really get amped up for moments against former teams, especially the fact that it wasn't really his former team. Like I said, they picked him up and they just sent him down. He was basically extra in that trade deal that they made with San Jose. But Stalock is a formidable goalie. He's a guy that I liked going back to when he was with San Jose. I thought he would be a excellent backup. Even before they got Martin Jones, I thought he'd be a guy that they would really look at being a number 1 guy. So I'm not too worried about the fact that the Wild are going to be without Dubnyk for a while. I think Stalock's one of the better backup options they've had in quite some time. You look at Edmonton, like I said, Cam Talbot's coming back. You got to see how rusty will he be possibly coming back. He was on a 3-game win streak before he got hurt at the end of November. He hasn't done well against the Wild, though. He's only 2-4-1 in his career against the Wild. And this is a really odd spot for Edmonton as well, because they've been on the road and then they have this 1-day game and then have to go back. It's a very odd scheduling spot. Both teams aren't really used to playing this early. The Wild usually play earlier games, 3 or 4 o'clock games late in the season. So I could see a slow start from both teams early, but I'm on the Wild in this spot. I think Stalock will play well. If you think about this time last year, this is when the Wild started that huge run, won about 12, 13 games. They were along with Columbus. They ended up meeting up on New Year's Eve a year ago, as it was the 2 longest win streaks to match up in NHL history. So maybe the Wild can do that again, start getting hot around the holiday time.
Yeah, they're playing good. I mean, there's no question. Minnesota peaking at the right time. Everybody's lots of positive quotes too from the Wild, the players, about how it's fun again. It's a great atmosphere. 13 goals allowed, by the way, for Minnesota in their last 7 games during the 6-1 run they've been on. So that's pretty good. 13 goals allowed in 7 games. You're doing the job defensively, and you're getting good goaltending. And Alex Stalock's been part of that good goaltending. Certainly was the other night. See if he can keep it going today. Andrew McGinnis, what are you looking at here in Minnesota here?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys. I'm tired of getting burnt when I take overs in an afternoon game. I mean, it's simple. It's one of those things where you don't always want to do it, but you see a stat, you see certain things, and right now with these two teams, it's definitely somewhere where I'm looking for the under to total. It's like Alex said, and sometimes a lot of people use the terms, the feeling out process, and both teams kind of finding out the styles of play for each other for the first period. And I think that first period is always a big period for the totals. And for these two teams right now, I think the first period is going to be just kind of a quiet one. Like you said, when you got a goaltender coming back into his team where he kind of was the main goalie for that team, he was the main guy behind the pipes or between the pipes for them. You kind of want him to get comfortable back there. So the D core will definitely be on their toes to beat the puck out of his end. And I think that right now, Dubnik or not, this Minnesota team, whether or not we want to say it, guys, is an under team. They're a defensive team. Moving forward, as this season progresses, they're not going to be a team that wants to win 5-4, 4-3 kind of games. They're a 2-1, 3-1 kind of game team. So, and also like in Minnesota, I mean, you look at the stats here, head to head in their last three. Minnesota is 3-0, but they're putting out 3.33 goals in that span. Meanwhile, Edmonton putting up just 1.67 goals in that span, head to head in the last 3 games. So for me, obviously, you don't want to just look at the track record, stuff like that. But my official play for this one, boys, is going to be on the under. Afternoon game. I just think that they're going to be feeling the process out for the first little while of the game. And again, I think that the struggling Edmonton Oilers right now, combined with a Minnesota team that has that defensive first mindset, I think that their goal is going to be to shut down the top guns for Edmonton. Edmonton will continue to struggle to score, and this is going to be maybe a maximum, 3-2 type of game.
All right, the under for Andrew in this game kind of makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Edmonton's secondary scoring all season's been an issue for them, and we talked about the Minnesota stat, how defensively they're really playing well, getting the job done. They're not scoring goals in bunches by any stretch, but they're not giving up many, and that's the key. I mean, you look at the last couple of wins they've had, 2-1 and 2-0. They're not scoring a ton of goals, Minnesota, but their goal prevention has been absolutely spectacular in these last 2 games, both of them with Stalock. So you look at it, they're getting the job done right now. Minnesota, and Stalock's got confidence, and they got a hot goalie. And usually with a team that's winning and the hot goalie, they can ride that. So we'll see if that streak continues today for the Minnesota Wild, playing their best hockey of the season. We've got another afternoon game. Rangers taking on Boston, 3-4 on the rotation. Got no line here in this game, but Boston hosting the Rangers at 5 p.m. Weird start time here, 5 p.m. Eastern. 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific. We've got Boston, 15-10-3. They've played better hockey lately. New York Rangers, nice win for them last night against the LA Kings, 4-2. LA finally running into some problems here on this East Coast road trip after flying along for the longest time. But good win for the Rangers. They're on the second night of back-to-back games here, taking on this Boston team, which is had a 3-game winning streak snapped the other night by the Washington Capitals by a score of 5-3. We'll see if the Rangers can keep their winning ways going. 2-1, by the way, the Rangers this season on the second night of back-to-back games. So they've had 3 instances in this spot, 2-1, so not bad whatsoever. It's probably a game I'm staying away from in the end, but I'd lean a little bit to Boston. We'll see where the price is. I'm not going to bet it, but if I had to give a lean out in this game, I'd lean Bruins, just because I think you get them in a bounce back situation, and they have a little bit of a situational edge with the Rangers having been in action last night. And then we've got an outdoor game, Montreal Ottawa, 5-6 on the rotation. We got Montreal now has moved to the favorite. Ottawa opened a slight home favorite. Montreal now about -120 to 25 on the road. Total 5.5 shade to the under. Make note, 7 p.m. Eastern. This is an outdoor hockey game. Outdoor game being played in Ottawa for the 100th anniversary of the NHL to commemorate the inaugural season of the league. So this is a special outdoor showcase between the Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Senators, Parliament Hill. It's going to be a beautiful site. Beautiful Lansdowne Park, I should say, is where it's going to be. Beautiful backdrop. for a outdoor hockey game. If you definitely, this is a game worth tuning. This is not exactly a game worth tuning in terms of who's playing. Montreal's been up and down. Ottawa's had a tough time of it lately, but to see the backdrop and just look at that spectacle because that's a beautiful place, Ottawa, especially outdoors in the winter time. It is going to be a beautiful scene at Lansdowne Park in Ottawa for this game outdoors. It's going to be beautiful to watch, really. It's worth looking at. It's worth watching this game as far as I'm concerned, just for that. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. In terms of the product you get on the ice, well, we'll see. Or hopefully we get a good game. I think if there's a chance we will, because you're going to want both of these teams wanting to put on a show. It's an outdoor game. By the way, it's absolutely bone-chilling cold right now in Eastern Canada, so it's going to be a cold game or a cold night for a hockey game in Ottawa. No question about that. I don't think there's going to be too much in the way of snow. There was some snow in the forecast in the Ottawa area last night and early this morning, but I believe that's moving out for game time. So, there shouldn't be any problems with the ice conditions. Let's put it that way. The ice should be as frozen as a rock. I mean, with how cold it's been the last several days. So I think you're going to get good, pristine outdoor ice conditions for this game. I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. This, by the way, is going to be a nationally televised game in both countries. Of course, it's CBC Hockey Night in Canada. It's their showcase game tonight in Canada, but it's also on coast to coast on NBC Sports Network in the United States. So they're showing this game. Hey, the NBCSN on a Saturday night's never ever showing Montreal Ottawa, but they are here because it's an outdoor game. It's the 100th anniversary game. They want to show it, and they're doing that. So a very interesting game here. We've got Montreal. Montreal actually beat Ottawa 7-4 on that first game, that December 19th, 1917, the game that they are commemorating here. So there is some history between Montreal and Ottawa. That's why they're having this hockey game here tonight. Montreal off a 2-1 win against New Jersey in overtime the other night. Meanwhile, Ottawa, give them credit, they finally won a hockey game. We know it's been absolutely dreadful. A horrible run for this team in their last 12-13 games, only 2 wins during that span. One was against the Islanders, and the other night, snapping a 5-game losing streak, they beat the New York Rangers 3-2. This team is a frustration, though, still overall, Ottawa right now. Matt Duchene's been a massive disappointment for the Senators. And how about this great weekend we're having here at Lansdowne Park, 100th anniversary celebration? Who decides to put a little dampen the mood element on this weekend? Eugene Melnyk, the fuckstick owner of the Ottawa Senators, who decides to say, I might consider moving the team because we do very, very well somewhere else, maybe. Who's really? You're throwing a franchise and a fan base under the bus and basically threatening that, I wouldn't mind maybe relocating this team down the road on a weekend where you're supposed to be celebrating hockey in the nation's capital on the 100th anniversary of the league. Good move, fool. I mean, goodness. That guy is not one of my favorite owners. Let's put it that way, Eugene Melnyk, and he really stepped into it with his comments yesterday. Really ridiculous, and the timing of it couldn't have been worse to say what he said. Talking about all the problems, and I can't keep free agents, and it's going to be hard to pay for them. Yeah, that's really what free agents are going to want to hear. You're trying to attract players to the Ottawa Senators, and you're saying you're going to have trouble paying them, and we're not getting the financial backing we need here in Ottawa. We may have to take the team elsewhere. Just stupid stuff. You keep your trap shut, and then a special weekend like this, and a special game for the city of Ottawa. Maybe Ottawa's not in the greatest financial health right now as a franchise. There's no question. In terms of Canadian teams, they're in a little bit of trouble in that regard. But this is not the time to air that dirty laundry out. All right, this is supposed to be focus on the weekend, the game, the city, your own team. Keep that stuff behind closed doors. That doesn't need to be brought out in public and make public remarks and make silly comments like I may have to move the team, or they may look very, very nice. We're struggling a bit now, but they may look very, very nice somewhere else. This franchise, come on, it's ridiculous. But nevertheless, that's Eugene Melnyk sometimes saying things that he shouldn't, and he did that again yesterday. Interesting game. Do I dare lean Ottawa here in this game? I mean, they are off a win. Gives them some confidence. They beat the New York Rangers. They snapped a win streak. I certainly don't trust Montreal laying a price on the road here. That's for sure. It's probably an Ottawa or pass game for me. I'm not in love. I'm not, jumping to bet the Senators here, but if I have to give a lean in this hockey game, probably lean a little bit to the home team here in this special 100th anniversary outdoor game. Andrew has an opinion on this Habs Senators game. Should be a lot of fun to see the atmosphere in Ottawa. Like I say, it's a beautiful city, so you're going to get a beautiful backdrop, beautiful background for this game. It'll be great to watch. Andrew, what are you looking at here in this outdoor game?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I saw Alex mentioning, a little live group chat here on the YouTube channel or YouTube page about the record of the home team and in these outdoor games. I think it is huge. I mean, I like talking about home ice advantage. I think it is huge in times like this. But one thing I do want to say about this Montreal Canadiens team, the last game that they played, I believe the outdoor game was at Gillette Stadium. I was actually at that game, and the whole time I was watching that game, I was obviously watching it as a fan perspective, cheering my team on. But I really noticed, guys, that this type of style and this type of play is what's meant for the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, the way that they play their style of hockey is just okay. I mean, they play that pawn style kind of hockey, that pawn hockey kind of style. I mean, they get pucks deep and they pretty much they have that real shuffle four lines kind of style. I mean, I'm always saying this about the Habs. I mean, let's take a look at the top two lines: Max Pacioretty, Philip Deneau, Paul Byron. Then second line, Alex Galchenyuk, Jonathan Drouin, and Andrew Shaw. So, I mean, if you look at those six guys right there, they're no standouts. I mean, those aren't even guys that are making the All-Star team this year, sadly. But these are just guys that are collectively taking care of business for you. So, in my opinion, overall, they just have way more depth right now. The Senators are just, I'll use Ian's phrase, they'll send out a search party for their offense right now because as far as Matt Duchene goes, we haven't seen jack from him since he's really got there. And whether or not he's improving each game, the time is ticking. I mean, whether or not he's improving each game and looking at better and better and better or doing certain good things on the power play, sometimes it's almost too little too late when your team's, 6-1 in their last 7 or whatever the stat is. So for me, some days you have a day where you like overs, some days you have a day where you like unders. And for me, I'm liking the under and I'm liking my Habs in this game. I think typical outdoor game is going to be just a lot of chippy stuff going on, a lot of flutter pucks going to the goalie's chest protector, and just one of those slow games. I think it'll be an exciting game, guys, but by no means are this Ottawa and Montreal team gonna skyrocket this total over. So I'm gonna make these two teams work for the over and the total to go over, and I'm gonna just try and easily cash a ticket on the under, guys. So small lean with the Habs money line, but I'm mostly on the under in this game, actually.
Yeah, Montreal 6-4 to the under their last 10. Ottawa 7-3 to the under their last 10. So they both trended toward the under. Ottawa 3 straight unders as well coming into this game. So yeah, under makes sense. Outdoor game, some outdoor games have gone over, but I find most, not all, but most have gone under. Most, but there've been the odd exceptions. But under certainly makes a little bit of sense. I'd certainly bet under before over in this game. It'll be a fun one to watch for sure. Columbus, Carolina, 7-8 on the rotation here. We've got Carolina minus 115, slight road favorite against Carolina, who played last night in Buffalo, got a nice overtime win, total 5.5 shaded to the under. And I'm on the Jackets here. I like the situation for them, a situation where they can take advantage of a Carolina team that played last night, 5-4 overtime win. Good response from Columbus the other night against the New York Islanders. Remember, that was coming off a shocking debacle, to be honest with you, against the Edmonton Oilers, where they lost 7-2, where John Tortorella comes to the podium and says, I'm not taking any questions. Really, I don't need to answer any questions about this kind of game after the Edmonton loss. So as soon as you saw that, you knew, hey, he's a little PO'd. That's probably a good move by John Tortorella, knowing when he's upset after a loss like that, what Columbus had against Edmonton, he's going to say something he might regret. And he actually is. He has matured, actually, John Tortorella. If you ask me, he really, really has. He's tried to quell the rants a little bit, quell the just losing your shit all the time when things go wrong. And he certainly did his best to do that after the Edmonton game. And the team responded. Nice win against the Islanders. Islanders fell down 3-0, tied it up, but Columbus responded right away, took the lead back, ended up winning that game 6-4. So it was a good bounce back for them. I think they can keep the momentum going here. Carolina, to me, we talked about it the other night, and I know they came back to beat Buffalo last night. This has been a ridiculous schedule for them. They have been traveling nonstop between every single game since November the 26th. Okay, that's November 26th to now. That's like over 3 weeks now where you've been traveling after every game. After every freaking game. I mean, at some point it's gonna catch up to you. And now you're playing back to back as well. You were on the road for a couple games. You came home for one game. You went out west to Western Canada, then down to California, then to Vegas, then three time zones across to the east to Buffalo for that game last night, and now you're back home on the second night of back-to-backs. At some point, you hit a wall. I'm sorry, you hit a physical wall. The gas tank has nothing left. That could be it for Carolina tonight. Yeah, give me Columbus at an even money price and a flat-out better hockey team as well. Give me Columbus here, minus 115 in this hockey game. Like that play. Alex B. Smith also involved in this game. Alex, what are you looking at here?
Well, not you mentioned the whole crazy schedule that they have, but here's the thing on top of it. It's the second night of back-to-backs. Then they go back on the road for 2 more games before playing against Buffalo before the holiday break. So it's absolutely brutal. I don't know that who Carolina pissed off in the NHL offices to lend them this kind of schedule, but it's been absolutely horrific. And the fact that I think most of us had Carolina as a team on the rise this year, and I had this whole stretch circle thinking if they're gonna make the playoffs, this is I think it'll be at least 500 within this kind of a brutal stretch, but they haven't really done that. And now you said a Columbus team, they've won 11 of their last 15. They've won 4 of their last 6 against Carolina. And so we see Columbus, one of those teams, they've been up and down a little bit, struggling a little bit, but they're one of those teams, kind of like how you mentioned with Pittsburgh. They're a team that they don't really have to take every single game too seriously. They're one of the better teams in their division, and they can get a good roll, good momentum, and should be able to make the playoffs pretty easily. So I do see them winning here tonight. I'm on Columbus as well, but like I said, I'd be looking to possibly fade Carolina maybe for 2 or 3 of the next couple of games because, like I said, this has been absolutely brutal. It's tough to go home. Like I said, these standalone spots that they've had at home and then going back on the road have just been absolutely brutal for them.
Absolutely brutal. And again, Carolina is one of those teams. They're 6-6, by the way, their home record. It's nothing to write home about, and they have no home ice edge. I mean, they're lucky if they're even half full for their home games for these in Carolina. I mean, the attendance is absolutely god awful. For the Hurricanes this season. So you got to downgrade that. You can't give Carolina the same home ice advantage or weight of playing on home ice that you give to Vegas or you give to Chicago, or you give to Tampa, some of the better buildings in the league, any of the Canadian, Toronto, teams of Montreal. You can't give Carolina that same weight from a home ice perspective. Nashville, one of the strongest home ices in the NHL. You can't give Carolina that same weight. There is no ambiance there. There's no electricity. There's no any kind of raucous environment there. So there's no problem for me betting against Carolina when they're at home because that's not much of a home ice edge for them. And we've talked about it. The spot, they're off 2 big wins against Vegas. Not many people have won in Vegas. They did in a shootout, and then they beat Buffalo last night. So it's not like there's a sense of urgency here for Carolina. It's a great, great bet against spot as far as I'm concerned for Carolina tonight. And to go with Columbus here in this game. Winnipeg, St. Louis, 9-10 on the rotation. We've got no line here, but should be an interesting hockey game. Winnipeg Jets going to have to pick themselves up off the mat because one thing they've done this year has been fantastic at home until they ran into the Chicago Blackhawks the other night, who just handed it to them in impressive fashion on home ice. Great win for Chicago. It allows Winnipeg in bounce-back mode. Winnipeg, though, is sort of, I don't want to say sputtered completely, but it's been a little bit of a rough go. It's been a bit of a rough schedule. Paul Maurice has hinted at that the last few games, talking about how it's been a tough schedule, lots of travel as well lately for this Winnipeg team. And now they're back on the road here tonight taking on this St. Louis Blues team. But oddly enough, the Jets have done fantastic against this St. Louis team in recent meetings. 6-0. Are the Jets' last 6 meetings overall against St. Louis, including 4-0. They've actually won here in St. Louis 4 straight times. That's very impressive. I mean, for some reason, the Jets have matched up well here with this St. Louis Blues hockey team. We got St. Louis that have lost 2 straight games, 3-0 and 3-1 against Tampa and Anaheim. I'm actually leaning Jets here. They've matched up well against the Blues. They've done well against St. Louis. They're off a loss. And they've been pretty good off a loss for the most part. I know they had 3 losses in a row recently on that road trip, but specifically off a home loss, this team has been pretty good this season. And again, they've matched up well with St. Louis, and you're probably going to get a decent price on Winnipeg in this game, in spite of the fact that they've had the better of the play here head-to-head against St. Louis. And at some point, the injuries are going to catch up to this team. There's too many injuries now in St. Louis. We talk about all the guys they lost before the season, including Robbie Fabry. Bouwmeester hasn't played a game. Now you're down Jaden Schwartz. Now you're down Alex Pietrangelo. Dmitry Ashkin got injured the other night. He may not play. He's been a pretty solid forward for them. At some point, you're going to run out of bodies, and the depth, it's going to be tested. And at some point, you're not going to be able to just plug in players that will perform at the same level as the injured guys. And we're getting to that point right now with St. Louis, especially from the offensive side of the puck. I mean, 1 goal in their last 2 games combined. That's not good. I'll be looking to back Winnipeg here. A good spot, good situation. They've had a couple days off now since that Wednesday night game against Chicago. So it's a chance to lick their wounds here a little bit. Actually, that was Thursday they played Chicago, but still, it's a chance for them to lick their wounds, get back, and have a good game here. And you look at this Winnipeg team, by the way, 14-3-3, 1 day rest. That's the spot for them. 14-3-3 with 1 day rest. So good situation here for Winnipeg. I'll be looking to back the Jets here against a struggling now and really injury-riddled St. Louis team. The injuries are mounting here for the Blues at a very alarming rate. If you're a St. Louis fan right now. Dallas, Philadelphia, 11-12 on the rotation. Philadelphia suddenly, that's hockey for you. You can't get out of your own way. You lose 10 in a row. And now what? Philadelphia's won 5 in a row since that 10-game losing streak. It just goes in waves. That's the long ebbs and flows of an 82-game season. And we're seeing that with the Flyers now. -120 at home against Dallas. The total in this game, 6 shaded to the under. Back-to-back for Dallas. They were in Jersey last night, lost that game to the Devils with Kari letting him in, who turned back into what we all know he is, not a very good goalie. He had a nice little run, give him credit, but he was starting to let him in again last night, living up to his name, and he struggled in that loss. So I think it's time now. Ken Hitchcock ran with Lettinen for a few games there. He got on a nice little run, but that run came to a crashing halt last night. It's back to Ben Bishop tonight. I would be shocked if it's not. I think he'll be back in net tonight for this Dallas Stars team against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is suddenly a team that, again, we talk about these teams like Minnesota in a previous game. We talked about these teams I don't want to go against when they're on a win streak and they're feeling good. And right now, that's Philadelphia. That 10-game losing streak is now a thing of the past. Right now, they've won 5 in a row. And it beat some pretty good teams in the mix, other than Buffalo, who stinks. But other than that, they beat Calgary on the road, beat Edmonton on the road, beat a feisty Vancouver team on the road, beat Toronto. So they've had some nice wins during this stretch, playing better hockey and scoring goals right now. I mean, this Flyers team is getting a ton of good contributions offensively. Claude Giroux's been good during this stretch. Sean Couturier has already hit his career high in goals scored for this Flyers team. Michael Raffles come alive a bit offensively in recent games. So there's a lot all of a sudden. Philadelphia's getting some guys going offensively. That was an issue during their losing streak. Some of their big guns are starting to fire again, and that's a good news for the Flyers. So, you look at the tough spot here for the Dallas Stars. They're on the second night of back-to-backs. They're just 2-3 in that spot this season. So it's a Flyers or pass game for me. Teams on a win streak, I don't really actively look to get in their way. That's definitely the case here with the Philadelphia Flyers tonight in this hockey game. We've got the Kings and Islanders, 13-14. Next game up, no side or total here on this game. It is a back-to-back situation for the Kings after losing to the Rangers last night, 4-2. I'll be looking to bet the over in this game. I know that, just like I am every Islander game right now. Look, this Islander penalty kill stinks. I mean, I don't know what else you can say. Doug Waite held a long practice last week to address the penalty kill because he was pissed off a week ago how bad it was. And they tried to address it, tried to fix it, and it hasn't gotten any better. They're still giving up power play goals, at an alarming rate. Defensively, not good enough. You don't know what you're going to get from Jarl Halak or Thomas Greiss on a night-to-night basis. That's been a problem. Their goaltending's not really been consistent at all for the New York Islanders. So it's as a result, you're getting this team basically flying over the total every single night. The question is, where do odds makers place this total? The baseline for Islander totals lately has been 6. They've been basically a 6 total team every game recently. Will they be reluctant to put them at 6 because they're playing the LA Kings, who are like an under team, more of a defensive-minded team? What are we going to see here from a totals perspective between the Kings and Islanders tonight? But even if it is 6, I'd be looking over the total. I really would. You look at LA, their defensive game, and even Jonathan Quick has been a little shaky the first 2 games of this Eastern road trip against Jersey and again last night against the Rangers. So they're starting to all of a sudden, give up a few goals. Gave up 5 to Jersey. Really, they gave up 3 goals to the Rangers last night. The fourth one came in an empty net. But not quite as stout the defensive end of the ice, the LA Kings, here on this road trip so far in the East as they were at home when they were just reeling off wins left and right. So I'm not going to be scared, even with the Kings involved, of betting an over in this game. That's certainly the way I'm going to be looking at with the Kings and Islanders. We'll see where that total comes out. Islanders, again, if you've been betting them over the total game in, game out, certainly better off from a bankroll perspective for it. They have been just a ridiculous over team for the majority of the season. It's continued lately. We got Anaheim, Washington, 15-16. Washington minus 140, home chalk. The total 5.5, shaded slightly to the under. I'm not going to have really much on that game. Give Anaheim credit for a nice win against St. Louis, but we talked about it. Was that Anaheim good, or Anaheim taking advantage of a banged-up Blues team? That is the question mark with that win against the St. Louis Blues last night. This is going to be a much tougher task, much taller order here for Anaheim on the road against Washington. Washington's playing good right now. Washington's in a good zone right now. You look at Jacob Vrana is a guy that's really opened my eyes lately in terms of how well he's been offensively, given this team a spark, because they've had TJ Oshie out of the lineup for a few games, Washington, and they've still been able to score goals. Ovechkin's been good. Backstrom's been good. Burakovsky, Kuznetsov, but Jacob Vrana is the guy that nobody's really talking about. And he's been a pleasant addition to this team this year from an offensive perspective. He's chipped in offensively. Washington, again, playing very good hockey outside of a loss to the Islanders, on the road, and the Islanders have been a good home team. They've been playing really good hockey. 6-1 are the Washington Capitals. Their last 7 games, 8-2 their last 10 games. Playing good, playing really good at home. Their home record, they've won 4 straight home games, this Washington team. So we'll see what Anaheim's all about tonight as they take on this Capitals team. Good win for them against St. Louis, but still we're talking about a team that's a little bit banged up. Patrick Eaves, we know he's been out forever. Kessler's not played a game. Corey Perry now with a leg injury. That's a big one for the Anaheim Ducks, sustaining that injury. And now he's out for a period of time. Hampus Lindholm may not play in this game tonight on the back end. So Anaheim's still dealing with a few injuries. They're healthier than they were, but they're still not back to full health. And again, was that a nice win for them because they played well against St. Louis, or was that just them taking advantage of a banged-up Blues team? And it is worth noting, Anaheim only had 18 shots on goal in that 3-1 win, gave up 30 shots. It's not like they outplayed St. Louis. They got good goaltending from John Gibson. And actually from John Gibson, they've gotten good goaltending, very good goaltending the last 2 wins. He's been terrific in net for the Ducks. That would be the one thing that gives them a shot here, is if Gibson continues to play well. But I like the way Washington's going right now. I don't love laying minus 140 with them, but I'd lean ever so slightly to the Capitals and to the home team. Maybe under the total as well. Anaheim's trending under right now, having trouble scoring goals. Gibson's been great in net. I could see a lower scoring game here. Lean Capitals, lean under the total as well. Pittsburgh, Arizona, 17-18. Arizona, 5.5. The total shaded to the over. Pittsburgh minus 170. Hefty road chalk in this game. Why not? They're Pittsburgh. They're off a loss to Vegas. They're probably going to bring a good effort. And Arizona's Arizona. They're awful. They played a upper echelon team the other night against Tampa. It was like men against boys on the ice. 4-1 win for Tampa Bay. What were the shots in that game? Something like 40-22 or something. It was just domination by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Complete domination. Their power play lit up Arizona like a December Christmas tree, kind of like the one in the background here. And that's basically all she wrote. I mean, that Tampa got those couple goals in the first period, and that was enough to cruise to victory against Arizona the other night. I don't trust Arizona to beat Pittsburgh here, not even me, especially Pittsburgh off a few losses in a row. When do we get concerned about what's happening with the Penguins here? They've now lost a few games in a row, including the game against Vegas the other night with Matt Murray back in the saddle, though now, which should help. This has to be the get-well spot for Pittsburgh. I know they've lost a few games in a row, not something you want to see if you're the Penguins, but this has to be the game, the spot, the opponent to hopefully get well against. So we'll see if they can right the ship here against this Arizona team, which for the most part still can't get out of their own way. We've got both of the Ice guys involved and wanting to discuss this hockey game, Penguins and the Coyotes tonight. Alex B. Smith, let's go to you. What are you looking at in the desert here tonight?
I'm actually looking at the Coyotes in this spot here. I mean, it's not so much a play on them. They're a brutal team, obviously, but I think Pittsburgh right now on that West Coast swing, I think they're kind of playing down uh, to the level of teams that they're facing. Like, obviously Vegas, good team. You knew that Vegas was going to have a good effort, especially with Marc-Andre Fleury going against his old club, and they got the 2-1 win. But you look at the game before against Colorado, a 2-1 loss. Of course, that's in altitude. So I think this losing three of the last four for Pittsburgh, it's a bit concerning. Like I said, when do we start showing a little bit of concern? I'm kind of concerned now at this point, and no way I would lay out $1.70 or even a goal and a half with Pittsburgh. I think Arizona, knowing they have the back-to-back defending Stanley Cup champions in their building, I think they're going to give at least a puncher's chance and a good effort here tonight. So I would lean with them at like I said, plus 150. I'm sure money's going to come trickling in on Pittsburgh, so we could see this balloon up to 155, 160. I'll go with Arizona in that spot.
All right, yeah. Alex with the Ian Cameron special, banging his head against the wall trying to back this Arizona team, because I know I tried to early on in the season, and let's just say I lost a lot more than I won. A lot more than I won. So we'll see. It's a good price. We'll see. Pittsburgh is struggling. There's no you can't deny that. I mean, this has not been. And Pittsburgh's especially in this price range. It's sometimes tough to lay with Pittsburgh simply because, where's the incentive for them to just put their foot down and just roll through the regular season? They've got bigger fish to fry, eyes on the prize, but at some point they're going to have to get it going, because I don't want to say Pittsburgh can miss the playoffs, but they're out of a playoff spot right now. If the season ended today, Pittsburgh is not in the playoffs. So, okay, you can at some point put it on cruise control in the regular season, but they've been putting it on cruise control a bit too often, to the point now where if the season ended today, Pittsburgh's not a playoff team. That's a concern. At some point, you're going to have to step up, put your foot down, get on a win streak, get focused, get in that right mindset. And right now, Pittsburgh's not in that mindset, especially defensively. You look at their last 5 games, 1-4, their last 5. They've given up 3 goals or more, 3 of those 5 games. The offense has dried up a little bit the last couple of games. That's been an issue against Colorado and Vegas, 1 goal in each of those games. How does Jonathan Bernier completely shut down an offense like that? I'll never know. I could see Vegas doing it, but because Fleury's a good goalie, that's a good hockey team. But how does Colorado do that to this Pittsburgh team? I'll never know. They can shut them down. Bernier can hold them to 1 goal, but they did. So not only defensively have they struggled, but their offense has sort of gone away at times. And, to be honest with you, Crosby didn't do a whole lot the other night against Vegas. That was about as minimalistic an impact as I've seen him make on a hockey game in quite some time. I mean, obviously you give Gallant and Vegas credit for a game plan to shut him down, but still not much of an impact in that game. We'll see if he comes to life here. He's going to need to if Pittsburgh's going to snap this 3-game losing streak. Andrew's also involved in Pitt in Arizona. We've got Alex looking to take a shot with the dog here. What's Andrew looking to take a shot with here in the desert tonight?
Well, guys, it was kind of a funny joke on our last show on Thursday. I was, you take 2 teams that are kind of struggling, or not really struggling, but on different ends of the spectrum. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, like you said, it was like a complete mismatch. It's a man among boys in that game. I mean, those were 2 completely different teams. So it was always kind of a joke between us, because it's like that typical, the obvious puck line that I took as my best bet. Only caught it at around plus 155, but sometimes you look at those games and you almost think it's a trap to take the puck line, because it almost seems like taking candy from a baby. It just almost seems too easy of a bet to take. And from this perspective, I do feel like this one on the puck line would be a little bit sketchy. And I agree with Alex that possibly the Arizona Coyotes could show some life here. But for me, the play is going to be on the over. And I had the over in the Tampa Bay Arizona game, but slightly as well. And the reason why it wasn't my favorite play, and I wasn't actually in love with that play, is that you don't really know how much you can really count on the Coyotes for. I mean, you don't really know how many goals you really needed Tampa Bay to score for that over to really fly over. So, in my opinion, for me, coming off this game, I mean, it was a Matt Murray versus Marc-Andre Fleury game in Vegas. I kind of predicted it was going to be 2 former teammates. I had a feeling that game was going to go under. I mean, we were looking at 6 in that last game. So I think as far as this Pittsburgh Penguins team go, I'm always talking about how much I love the depth of this team. Their lineup, it just produces all the way down their lineup. Gensel, Crosby, Sherry, Brian Rust, Malkin, and Phil Kessel are your top 2 lines. Their power play is absolutely killer. And then you've got Arizona where there's just kind of just a slenders of guys that kind of just slowly kind of decide to pick things up. I got to say, I love watching Clayton Keller play. He takes care of business on the power plays. He has been kind of slumping a little bit. Um, Got to really wonder when you start to see Dylan Strome, when he'll start to be an impact player on this team, guys, because I'm still waiting on it. I don't really know when he'll turn into anything really too special for this team. But in summary, my play is on the over for these two teams right now. This game, I think that off a loss, off one of those really tight kind of games, 2-1 game for Pittsburgh, they're due for a little bit of an outbreak in scoring, guys. They still are averaging a decent amount, 2.88 goals per game. It's not the biggest. And of course, Arizona's averaging like nothing, next to nothing, 2.2 goals per game roughly. But they've been known to put a couple in. And I think that they're going to also be very prone to be getting slapped in the face by this Pittsburgh Penguins team tonight in the desert. You give this Pittsburgh Penguins team a day off in the desert, they're going to be rested, they're going to be fired up, and they're going to take their anger out on this really sad Arizona Coyotes team. And that's as simple as it gets for me. So not even on the side whatsoever, guys. Let's let this total skyrocket over.
All right, so we've got Andrew McGinnis on the over in this hockey game, Pittsburgh, Arizona. The problem I have with Arizona, and I took a shot with Tampa Zona over the other night, did not come through. 2-1-0-1-1. That's the number of goals for Arizona the last 5 games. I mean, it's just pulling teeth right now for this team. Offensively, you're going to need Pittsburgh to somehow pull the weight here, carry the load here if this game's going to get up and over the total. And you're right. I mean, Dylan Strome, we're waiting for him to get going here in the National Hockey League. Just 1 goal so far for him this season. That's not great by any stretch of the imagination to this point. So we're waiting for him to get going. What's happened to Max Domi this season in terms of goal scoring? I know he's got the assists, 15. But 2 goals. I mean, you expect more than that from him this season. He hasn't produced. Derek Stepan's been okay, but he's been inconsistent. Tobias Reeder's been a disappointment. He's only got 5 goals and 5 assists at this stage of the season. That's got to be better. Even Anthony Duclair, 7 goals, 6 assists. It's okay, but it's not fantastic. Christian Dvorak, who really had a great rookie season last year, he's got 4 goals and 12 assists. That's not great. Like, there's so many guys for Arizona shooting blanks that should be better offensively, and that's your issue right now. It's why you're having trouble scoring goals. So we'll see if Arizona can right the ship right now offensively here against Pittsburgh tonight. Pittsburgh struggling, 3 losses in a row. If they lose tonight, Pittsburgh, it's time to start getting concerned. It really, really is if you're Mike Sullivan and the Penguins. Tampa, Colorado, next game. No concern about this, a Lightning team right now. 19-20. Tampa minus 190, road favorite, total 6 shaded to the under. Really, there's only one reason to bet against Tampa right now. Just banking on, are they flat? They mail it in. Really, that's the only reason, because there's nothing on the ice that would want you to bet against them right now, lead you to bet against them right now. They've been terrific. They've been outstanding at both ends of the ice. They've been scoring goals left and right. John Cooper shakes up the lines, puts Vladimir Namestnikov on the top line with Stamkos, puts Kucherov on the second line, separates Stamkos and Kucherov just to give more balance, and has not hurt this offense at all. It's helped them, actually. It's made them better, more dangerous, more balanced, more explosive. They've been putting up goals left and right during this win streak. That's bad news here for Colorado. Could be bad news for Jonathan Bernier. Now, I know Bernier stood on his head, one of the best performances of his career, really. Allowing just 1 goal to the Pittsburgh Penguins on 40 shots the other night in a Colorado win. But can he do this again and perform that well? That's been Bernier's problem his entire career. Lack of consistency, lack of an ability to have multiple good starts in a row. That's my concern. He is, by the way, the confirmed goalie tonight for the Colorado Avalanche in this hockey game, Jonathan Bernier. Can he do it again? Give him credit. He was great the other night against Pittsburgh, but his whole problem has been consistency. That rears its ugly head again tonight, and it's back to the Bernier that's really been up and down and struggled for the most part the last couple of years. This could be a problem here for the Colorado Avalanche tonight. I'm not going to be involved in this game. Maybe a slight lean to the over. I don't trust Bernier to do it again for a second straight game, but it's 6. Tampa is still a good defensive team. Vasilevsky's really been good in net. If he's in net, I'd be really reluctant to go over because he's been in good form lately for the Tampa Bay Lightning. In between the pipes, and I'm not convinced Colorado can put a bunch of goals in the net in this game if Vasilevsky's in there. Let's not forget it was a 2-1 game against Florida the other night. He only got 2 goals past Reimer and a shaky Florida defense. That's not something. That's not a type of over profile I like when you're facing now this Tampa Bay team here in this game. Tampa. This is another game. If you bet the over, Tampa may have to do most of the work to get you
Might be a good
up and over the total.
first period over, Ian.
Yeah, it could be. It much like the Tampa Zona game. You're right, because I noticed that Tampa gets that early quick start, gets that early jump. They got 2 goals in the first period against Arizona the other night, cashes that first period over, and the full game stayed under. Because again, once you get up to 3-1, 4-1, and you're concerned, if Tampa gets up 4-1, 5-1 in this game, they ease up off the gas pedal. Colorado's not in a spot where they have to pull the goalie, much like Arizona the other night when they were down 4-1. They're not going to pull the goalie. They're out of the game. They can't come back, and the game stays under. That's your concern, no question. Tampa gets the quick jump. Colorado's out of it. They put the clamps in defensively, and all of a sudden your full game under is struggling and likely on the losing end of it. So first period over makes a lot more sense. I'm with you here. This is a game where if I bet the over, much more inclined to look first period over than the full game. Nashville, Calgary to wrap it up. Oh, go ahead.
Nothing really worse than hearing those play-by-play commentators just say, "Yeah, John Cooper just can't wait for this game to end. The team just continuously, dumping it deep and sitting back on defense. Meanwhile, you're sitting there just praying somehow that your over hits, and there's no way you're going to hit an empty netter because it's 4-1. They're not going to pull their goalie. So, it's definitely a big key for everyone out there watching to look at, if you think a game might go over the total, sometimes even just looking that first period. If you think both teams will come out hot, the goaltenders will be kind of shaky because, again, if it is kind of a lopsided game in the third period, you just might not see that production. You might not see that team like Tampa Bay or like Pittsburgh or one of those top teams give it their all. And you don't really like to say that in professional sports, but it's kind of true. Like even in baseball, you see if a team is up 6-1 going into the 7th or 8th, they're not going to. I mean, it can still happen, but they're more than likely not to just go for those the big home run kind of place.
Oh, I've seen it. Like if there's like a 4-1, 5-1 lead in baseball, like let's compare it to that. Yeah, 4-1 in hockey, third period, dump the puck in, get off the ice, get a line change in. 4-1, 5-1 in baseball in the 8th inning. If you've got the lead and you're at the plate, what are you doing? You just want to get the game over with at that point. You feel comfortable you're going to win. Let's swing and miss, and just get it back, get our pitcher back out there. Wrap this thing up. Let's go home and get out of here with a win. I mean, there's, you get so many situations like that are once it's a bigger lead late in the game, it kills an over. It really, really does. Because the one team just wants to get the hell out of Dodge, wrap up the win, play conservative. Just get the pitcher back out there in baseball, get the puck deep in hockey, get the next line out, just continue to get that puck out. That was Tampa Zona. If you had the over the other night in that game, that was the third period. Frustrating if you did, but sometimes you run into games like that. You need that late cheap goal sometimes, and you didn't get it the other night between the Lightning and the Coyotes. We got a good game here to wrap up. This is the second game of the doubleheader on the CBC Hockey Night in Canada platform tonight. Saturday night. This will be after the Montreal-Ottawa game. Nashville-Calgary, 21-22. We've got the Nashville Predators, about even money, minus 110 on both sides here. Preds and Flames, total 6 shaded to the under. I'm telling you what, Nashville's looking more and more like a team to me, guys, that can absolutely be in a Stanley Cup final again. Absolutely they can. And this team has been absolutely fortified, Nashville, by the addition of Kyle Turris, because cheapskate, I should say, Eugene Melnyk didn't want to pay to keep him around, so he ended up traded him, bitching about his money again, which bothers me, and we already ranted about him enough. But Turris has been a godsend for this Nashville team. He's been absolutely fantastic. 13 points in 14 games I saw yesterday for Kyle Turris. 13 points in 14 games. He's been absolutely sensational, been great on the power play. They are 11-2-2, Nashville, since Kyle Turris arrived on the hockey team. 11-2-2. That's pretty impressive. This team is as deep at center ice as it gets. You need depth at center ice, depth down the middle. They've got that with Johansson, with Turris, with Bonino. This is great stuff from this Nashville team right now. Depth down the middle. They've got scoring options. Kevin Fiala's come on, been fantastic lately, scoring goals for this Nashville team. This Pontus Aberg for the Nashville Predators. He actually scored a goal or two, big goals in the playoffs last year for Nashville. He's starting to come to life a little bit. Right now, this line that Turris is on, Laviolette puts them together. Turris was talking about it. We got great chemistry on the ice with Fiala on his left side, Craig Smith on his right side, the veteran. They've been working magic, these three guys on that Nashville top line. It's been great to see. You've got Forsberg and Auberg now getting going as well on that second line. Bonino, Arvidsson as have chipped in. Johansson starting to get going for the Predators as well after a slow start to the season. A very, very depth-laden team. And then you got a guy like think about Colton Sissons, who's on the fourth line right now for Nashville. And Colton Sissons is a guy that can put a puck in the net too from time to time. And he's playing on the fourth line for this team. That tells you how deep they are right now, this Nashville team. The Comanche and Waves. I'm impressed with Roman Josi and the leadership he's shown since Shea Weber was traded out of there. He's become almost like the leader of the team. He's done a great job anchoring that back end. I was never ever sure Josi was an anchor on the blue line the way Weber was in Nashville before, but he is. He's been great, Roman Josi. Ekholm's a good defenseman. We know Subban has given this team a little personality off the ice, good play on the ice. It's been absolutely good to see there. There's a lot to like with this team. The only thing that I'm always hesitant about, guys, with Nashville is what are we going to get from Pekka Rinne? Is he got that consistency in him game in to game out? But he's had a good season, no question. And now if UC Saros plays the way he did the other night against Edmonton, they got a reliable backup option as well. So if Pekka's on his game and Saros plays like he did against Edmonton, they've suddenly got two capable goaltending options as well. So basically the gist of it is I like this Nashville team quite a bit. Got no inclination to bet against them right now. Taking on this Calgary team, which again at home has been a little bit mediocre this season. They're 8-9 at home. Nashville has been terrific at home, a little bit more susceptible on the road. They're only 9-7, Nashville, on the road, but they've played better on the road lately, this Nashville team. In fact, coming into this game, they've won 3 straight on the road. So Nashville's starting to work out the kinks, play better hockey away from Music City. They beat Dallas on the road 5-2, beat Vancouver 7-1, beat Edmonton 4-0. They got outshot in that game, but sometimes you need your goalie to come up with a big one for you, and Saros did that for them against Edmonton. They weren't happy with their performance. They know the goalie stole the game for them. I think you're going to get a better effort here from Nashville tonight. I would have to lean Nashville in this particular situation, -110 in this hockey game. They're just playing too well. Calgary, you're never quite sure what you're going to get from them on a night in and night out basis. So I'm waiting to see where this price goes on this Nashville Calgary game. I'm hoping maybe some Calgary money comes in, some Canadians, or I don't know, someone bets this thing toward the Calgary side, and hoping maybe we sneak out a plus price at some point with Nashville. I'll definitely, any plus price I see with Nashville, I'm jumping on. But even at -110, I'll probably have some kind of smaller bet here on the Predators here in this hockey game tonight. No question about that. Playing good hockey, Nashville. I'll be looking to back them. All right, let's wrap it up with best bets for this Saturday card. We've come to the end of the show. Best bets 112 and 108 for the season. The overall record still above 500, still profitable. And we're going to look to keep that trend going tonight with the best bet on the Saturday card. Let's go to Andrew first. Your best bet for tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. And I think, guys, I was looking more so towards the under, but kind of as we're moving on towards this show, and I've been looking at my laptop over here, I'm really just leaning towards the Habs in this outdoor matchup here, and I'm going to go for it with my best bet. I know the Habs have kind of moved to being the favorites now. I'm getting a little bit more juice than I would have liked to at the start, but maybe Ian, if you have it in front of you, you can tell me what the live current odds are. I don't have the page actually open. I think -120 I can get for the Montreal Canadiens right now. But look, guys, these teams, it's a complete mismatch. The goaltending is there. I can't believe I'm even saying this, but the defense is looking actually way better for the Habs right now. You got to give some credit to actually the Canadiens defense right now. They're doing their job. They're not trying to force too much. They're not, I'm happy we just spoke about Nashville for a second, because they're not trying to do what Nashville does, because they know they don't have the same defensive power that Nashville does. We don't have those offensive defensemen that Nashville does. These guys, they know their one job. Jordy Ben, Ian and I always have fun ripping on this guy. He's turned into that one character guy. Get to the puck, get it up to your forwards, get it off the glass, and make that smart play. And whether we like it or not, guys, it's all about making those smart plays and staying secure and staying safe and letting those speedy forwards the Canadians have do their thing. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. And one of those outdoor games, like I said, this feeds towards Montreal Canadiens. I think Carey Price will be an absolute rock back there and protect his own end, and he'll take care of business for the Habs. And the forwards, like I said, the Habs love running 4 lines. They have no problem running 4 lines. Shift changes every 35, 40 seconds. I mean, they're not one of those teams that relies on that one or two guys to score. That's kind of the funny thing about these guys. It's going to be a random guy each night that's going to hopefully spark the plug for you. And whether that's a good thing on one night and a bad thing on one night, who knows, guys? But for me, I just can't really see too many guys rising the occasion for the Senators right now. I can't rely on them, and I can rely a lot more on the Habs right now to come to life for me in this outdoor game. So take the Habs money line for me as my best bet, guys.
Yeah, we'll give you -117 actually on Montreal at Heritage. Great price there. Very good price. Again, I am. I'm doing the line shopping for you. Of course, I've always got your backs. You know that. -117 Heritage Sports, SBRodds.com. Make sure you're using that site on a daily basis to give you the best live odds anywhere. I mean, in terms of free live odds service, doesn't get any better than SBRodds.com. Make sure you're checking that out, and also SportsbookReview.com. Articles, the live odds, as I mentioned, Sportsbook rating guide. Make sure you're checking out that website every day, as well as the social media links below this video. Always support us, support SBR, so that we can keep giving you these great shows. That's what it's all about. Alex B. Smith, let's get to you with your best bet here for this Saturday card.
Yeah, I'll be looking down the street from my apartment with the early game with the Minnesota Wild and the Edmonton Oilers. Like I said, it's Cam Talbot's coming back, and we did, we talked about it briefly at the beginning of the show, but I think with Talbot being out with that injury, that might be a blessing in disguise, because we got to remember this guy played a lot of hockey last year, 73 games in the regular season, and he got every start during the playoffs. So Edmonton might be able to turn things around down the stretch, because he hasn't been, had to play. There's no way he's going to be able to play 70 games at this point with the amount of time that he has missed. But with that being said, though, I think Alex Stalock said he's on a hot roll right now. Wild team's doing very well. Like I said, a year ago at this time, they got on a really hot roll, and things went pretty well heading into the new calendar year. So I'm looking at with a short price. You see if I find it around. I got it around -110, but I'm going with the Minnesota Wild tonight at home.
All right, Minnesota best bet for Alex B. Smith. And for me, I'm going to go back to, I think, the one we talked about earlier. Really like it. I like the bet. I think they're the better team. I think they're certainly in a much better spot. And I think they're going to get the job done tonight on the road. We're going to go with the Columbus Blue Jackets, -110 against Carolina down in Kakalaki. Again, no home ice edge whatsoever for that team. It's half capacity, if that, for Hurricane home games. I think Columbus can go in there, get the job done against this road-weary, jet-lagged to the nth degree Carolina Hurricanes team that have been traveling nonstop since November 26th. That's a lot of air miles. It's a lot of flying, and I think it catches up to them tonight, especially on the second night of back-to-back games after an overtime game to boot last night against Buffalo. Give me Columbus, -110. Even money on the road. That's my best bet for the Ice Guys for this Saturday card, and that's going to wrap it up. Great show as always. Thanks to Alex B. Smith. Thanks to Andrew McGinnis for joining me as always. Hopefully we have Dana back with us on Tuesday. Enjoy your Saturday. It's a great Saturday. Hockey slate, college basketball slate, NBA, 2 NFL games, a great Saturday bowl slate in college football with bowl season kicking off. There's a lot of betting options at your disposal. Make sure you're always using sportsbookreview.com to help you make the best and most informed betting decisions that you can make. So until Tuesday, we'll speak with you then. For Andrew and Alex, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy your Saturday. We'll be back on Tuesday.